Food unites all of us. I'm going out there to find the people and places where our food stories still exist and bring them back to the table. I'm Chad Breeley, and this is Salt, Fresh and Field. The Canada Goose, the great V-shaped flocks that usher in the return of spring and the building of autumn, the impeccable markings. They are imprinted on our collective Canadian psyche. You see them everywhere. That's because there are 5 million of them actively breeding in North America. They can live to be 30 years old, and they mate for life. But are they loved? Are they despised? Turns out, it's a bit complicated. In Okanagan Falls, British Columbia, the resident Canada Goose population doesn't migrate. These geese are one of the few birds who are capable of digesting large quantities of grass, which explains their affection for golf courses and parks, and why they are so disliked by the locals. Where you have numbers of geese, you have large amounts of excrement. This waste is dangerous and ubiquitous. Brought here to advance hunting opportunities almost 100 years ago, these geese are abundant enough to be causing considerable damage to local ecosystems, which is, in turn, leading to a decline in native plant and animal populations.
I'm astounded by how many people think they're endangered. This is a very strong population. We've got great numbers of geese across North America. And because of the temporal climate here, we don't get real hard winters with frozen lakes. And so these geese are able to overwinter in this valley. The resident geese here, they've kind of climbed up and they became quite a prolific problem that creates a habitat imbalance or an ecosystems imbalance.
In order to help control this population with very few natural predators, there is a unique winter hunting opportunity for Canada geese in the Okanagan. And where do we hunt these geese? The district parks, and, with permission, the golf courses. To dispel the odd feeling of hunting geese so close to, well, everything, Chef Jeff Van Geest is with us to ensure that any birds we collect are treated with the utmost respect and experimentation. As a father, Jeff has ample opportunity to have to think on his feet. Turning Canada Goose, not known for its edible reputation, into a meal fit for a winery dinner is Jeff's second challenge. Our first challenge is getting a bird to hand.
I really started to think about learning to hunt when I came to the Okanagan. You know, I saw a lot of it going on around me, and I think as a chef, I care about where my food comes from. I care about what farms my food comes from and where the fish comes from. I think the next logical step was being out in the woods, harvesting wild meat. I think part of it was meeting the right people that could mentor me and give me a little bit of direction. And there's a lot more to think about, too. I mean, you're these warm-blooded creatures with the cute eyes, and you got to wrap your head around that a little bit, and there's a lot more of a culture that goes along with it. And it's not way up in the mountains like when we're deer hunting. You're a lot closer to civilization, and it just feels a little surreal. Yeah.
And also on board is Lionel, a photographer, avid hunter, and handler of Venari, his Labrador. He knows the ways of these local geese, and he knows what to do if things don't go exactly to plan.
Generally, a bigger, slower, older goose will either get taken by an eagle or a land animal like a coyote.
Sneaking up on a flock of geese from experience is near to impossible. I've done it a couple times, but there's lots of crawling through grass and it's not pretty.
Like a game of golf, not every day in the field is going to be your best. With the stiff southern wind scraping up the valley, the geese that had been landing on the 16th fairway all week have moved to more protected corners on the river bottom. While Canada geese seem to be everywhere in the Okanagan, they can be surprisingly difficult to locate within shotgun range. We pull our decoys and move out of the wind and into more uncharted, slightly uncomfortable hunting territory. The local park walkway system. The river and floodplains are out of the wind, a refuge for us and for the geese. With birds in sight, we use a traditional flushing technique to get them in the air. We are going to get one shot at this.
Ooh. Interesting. We got one.
What a good girl. There's your goose. Out. What a good girl. Out. Good girl. There we are. Nice, beautiful. Nice job. Nicely done, man.
That's a good goose. I'd be very happy with that goose.
That's gonna make some nice dinner. What do you want to do with it? We gotta cook that nice and slow and low. You know, I think hunting, it really speaks to something, you know, in the back of our brains, something that's really basic to our human existence. And being able to go out and catch our prey and provide for our families, it's one of the most basic things to us. So it triggers something in our heads. It feels right to us. The thing about goose that's challenging is that you want the legs to be tender, which is a slow and low cook, and you want the breast to be tender, which is a quick, hot cook. The goose legs didn't have a lot of fat to them, but the breast had a really nice thick layer of fat, but that fat is delicious. That fat is gold. So what we did is we placed the cast iron pan of potatoes under the goose to catch the drippings and then to cook the potatoes in the goose fat, which was pretty freaking delicious.
Not too bad. It was like a worry.
You know, I think food is like this great equalizer. We all love it. We all, you know, enjoy the act of eating when it goes beyond just nutrition. We see the way that different cultures have so much similarity in their food, I think, too, and it bridges a lot of gaps between us as human beings. And it always seems to happen when you sit at a dinner table with people.
There are so many Canada geese around us that it seems odd to hunt for them, let alone eat them. But with the population unnaturally well over the natural carrying capacity for the South Okanagan, there are already distinct efforts to reduce Canada goose numbers. The ecological damage created by these birds will continue to expand as the demand for farmland and for rural living grows. Regulated and controlled hunting seems like a reasonable, locally approved component to population control. And moving past the ecological benefit of controlling numbers, Canada goose can make for an incredible meal. With Jeff at the helm, one Canada goose, lean, local protein, can feed a crowd. And when it is cooked over fire, one Canada goose can be the start of new stories and more plans for time in the field.